you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
And this afternoon, we will be interviewing Regine here in our studio. This is regarding the questions that have been that you have commented on the post of stars during the week. And so we have gathered here some questions that we will be asking Regine here in our studio. And we will start the first question.
Yes. Okay. So again, we'd like to thank our viewers, our supporters, those who've been staying tuned with us since the very start. We thank you so much for participating and sending in your questions. Okay, sir, since you're a solo traveler, you have here a question from Kimberly Claire Madriaga, a graduate of Mountain View College Academy. She's asking if you could give us tips about solo traveling.
I think for solo traveling, I think for people, they should travel solo at least once in their life, because there are lots of benefits that you can get from traveling solo, and it's so different with traveling with a companion, with your family or with your friends. So I highly recommend it. First of all, you learn a lot of things. You become more street smart because you're on your own. So because of that, you gain confidence. And at the same time, it opens a lot of opportunities in terms of meeting people on the road. If you're with a companion, you're forced to just talk to whoever is with you on the trip. But if you're alone, then you're forced to go out of your comfort zone to meet people. So, and at the same time, when you're by yourself, I think one of the greatest benefits for me traveling alone is I can just decide whatever I want to do for that certain day. And I'm a very independent person. I don't want to be dictated. So, for example, you travel with your friends. You want to do this, and they'll say, "Oh, I want to go there." So, I think these are some of the benefits, and it might be scary at first, or it's out of your comfort zone. But then, once again, growth happens outside of your comfort zone. So, highly suggest that you should travel alone at least once in your life.
Okay, there you have it, Kim. Okay, travel alone once in your life, because as what I've known for Kimberly Madriaga, she yearly or every year she would travel with her family. So maybe according to Sir Regine, try to travel alone once in your life, Kim. So that's his tip or tips for you. Thank you, sir. How about for our next question?
I have here also a question, Sir Regine. This comes from Charles Marcera and Abby Remo. They both have the same question. Kini siya is top 10 must bring nga di gyud pwede malimtan, no? Or top 10 things daw nga super importante gyud. So can you name, sir, top 10 nga things for you to bring?
One of the lessons I've learned in traveling is you don't need a lot of things in order for you to be able to travel. But if you ask me about it, I'm not sure if it will reach 10. But for me, definitely you need your passport, or at least proper ID. If you're just a domestic travel, proper ID, and then cash. Don't forget cash. And if you're going out of the country, make sure you have U.S. dollars. It's a must. I've learned the lesson the hard way when I was in Brazil. I didn't have cash with me, and my ATM didn't work in Rio. So I was at my hotel. I was planning to go to Cristo Redentor, but because wasn't able to get some cash, so I wasn't able to do it. So can you imagine the frustration? So always bring cash with you. Don't forget cash, even though you have your ATM or credit card. Don't forget cash, at least US dollars. You should have US dollars when you go out of the country. And medicine. You should have your first aid kit with basic medicine, like for fever, for headache, for motion sickness, for allergy, like antihistamine, activated charcoal, anti-diarrhea, like Diatabs. I'm not sponsored, but Diatabs. So these kinds of medicine, and your DOP kit or your toiletry bag is very important, especially if you go to budget hotels where the toiletries are not good, the quality is so low. So you really need your toiletry. And if you're on your plane, if you're riding a plane at night, you have your routine, like what I've said on the interview. Before sleeping, I go to the lavatory, I wash my face, brush my teeth. So you have to maintain your daily routine even when you're on the road. So definitely DOP kit or toiletry bag. And then very important, jacket. Wherever you are in the world, whatever season it is, don't forget at least a jacket when traveling. Buses, which are very cold here in the Philippines, planes that have, of course, air conditioner. So definitely these things, it will not reach 10, but top kit, first aid kit or slash medicine, jacket, passport or ID, and cash.
Okay, thank you. Sir, we learned a lot from you, no? Top 10 nga dalon gyud ko magbiyahe.
Because as you all know, Sir Regine is a minimalist. So as much as possible, we'd like to travel as light as possible. So yeah.
Okay, karelate ko ng cash. One time we went to Singapore. Nagplano namin. We had our plans from the previous day. We will arrive in Singapore at 5 a.m. and then at 5 a.m. we will be allowed dito sa Changi Airport because we wanted to see Changi Airport. Papunta mag Singapore, we forgot. Wala dami nakapa-exchange of cash. So we had US dollars. We had Malaysian ringgit. Pero pagaput dito, wala naman siya na-exchange sa Singaporean dollar. And dili man mo dawat ang taxi driver. So, the plan was, it was really 5 o'clock on that to, Mountog Changi Airport. We had to wait for the earliest money changer to open so that makapa-exchange mi sa among money. And that was like 7 o'clock in the morning. It was like, wala na, nadaot na tong plano. So, it's really very important. Especially if you're traveling from one country to another, pa-exchange na daan to the currency of the other. And of course, why US dollars? Is because mas dako ang exchange rate kung US dollar na kaysa Philippine peso. So that's why you make it a point if you go out of the country, exchange daan og US dollar din because it basically there are some countries even I've heard nga murag US dollar lang ilang i-accept. So let's go to the next question. I'm just gonna paraphrase this question. This is from Sa Blando. Ngano mas madayon ang spontaneous trips kaysa planned trips? Anyway, I think this question is murag mas ko ano question. Which do you prefer? A spontaneous one or is it a planned one?
So before I go to that question, let me just add to what you said a while ago. So the world nowadays is going cashless. You can actually travel without cash. I've traveled a lot of times without using cash. The reason I said you should have cash with you is because there are cases where the ATM machine doesn't work. So the advice is as much as possible, don't bring a lot of cash because to prevent theft or things like that. So you should just bring your card, ATM, whether that be debit card, credit card, or in other parts of the world, they have this WeChat Pay, for example, they're going cashless. So these are preferable. But at the same time, cash is just for in case of emergency. So don't bring a lot, but at least have some. All right, so with that question, sorry, what's the question again?
Which do you prefer? Is it spontaneous or a planned trip?
Yeah, so these two different kinds of trips, once again, they have their own advantages. Basically, a lot of people, I've read on social media or on the internet that they prefer spontaneous trip, it's more adventurous and all that stuff. I'd say spontaneous trip is so overrated. When you don't plan, you end up spending more. It is very unpredictable. I prefer to be more organized because by that you will be able to plan your budget. You will know when you sleep. You arrive at the airport, someone will pick you up. You've researched ahead of time, and it's the advantage of that is it's more budget friendly.
Saves you time.
It saves you time. You see more sights because of that fact that it saves your time. But at the same time, for a spontaneous trip, I'd say you have to do it as well, maybe at least once in your life because it has its own advantages. The first thing is it's more adventurous. So you don't know what might happen, and it adds to the thrill. And usually if people talk about their most memorable trips, these are the trips that happen spontaneously because you get more adventures. And regarding the question that says, why is it that usually spontaneous trips what was that in Cebuano? Madayon, something like Madayon compared to planned trip.
Yes.
It's because for spontaneous trips, you take action. In order for a trip to happen, you have to take action. For a spontaneous trip, okay, you call your friend and then I want to go to this beach. It's so nice. Okay, let's book a ticket. Done. But for a planned trip, you plan, you want to do it perfect, and at the end of the day, you ended up not doing it. So that's the reason why usually spontaneous trips are the ones that are successful.
Kung nag-iingon sir no nga kanang mga tama na sa plano, tama na drawing ra taman, di na
Oo,
makuluran
drawing
kay gwapo kayong plano pero di madayon. No? So yeah, so sir has experienced spontaneous trips as well, but you prefer more of planning your trips ahead.
Yeah, but planning because it saves time and it saves money.
What could be planned and what could be like spontaneous? Like say for example, is it necessary nga the ticket or ang unsa na siya? Your ticket will be planned ahead of time on siya, and then what are the things that you do spontaneous?
Exactly. Like first of all, your airfare should be planned because as we all know, the shorter the trip is from this day, the more expensive the airfare would be. And number two is your accommodation. At least you have an idea of the budget and the review. You want to be comfortable on your trip and you want to get the most out of your money. So accommodation and airfare are the things that you should plan. The rest, maybe you just get by when you're there. But for airfare and accommodation, and I'd say even transfer, like the taxi, you should at least have a research on how things work in that particular city.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Okay, next question. This is from Kyle Pidida, again another student of Mountain View College Academy. It's in Cebuano. Naa ba siya time nga nagregret siya sa iyang kay iya nang gi-visit nga place? So was there a time, sir, that you regretted visiting a certain destination?
So far, I don't have any regrets yet in all of my trips and all of my travels. And I think one of the most I'd say not so good experiences when I was in Myanmar and I was sick while traveling. So that's about it. I didn't regret going to Myanmar, but what I regretted was I didn't take care of my body before the trip. So I think that's the only thing. And once again, in traveling, you learn a lot. So there are some mishaps on the road, but then that's exactly why we travel. We make mistakes and we learn. But so far, in my experience, I didn't have any regrets yet. But for my friends who are also travelers, I've read their stories and they said they regret doing this touristy stuff which contribute to the detriment of the environment or animals. For example, riding elephants in Thailand, or doing this so-called, they get the elephants and then they make money out of them while the elephants suffer. So these kinds of things are some of the regrets of my friends, but I haven't tried it yet. So I think in general, as long as the environment or other people and other creatures are not being harmed, I think you won't have any regrets in travel.
Okay, so no regrets in traveling. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, and napadiri sa question, sir, about traveling also. What things you usually do to entertain yourself? Now, maybe aside from traveling, because for me, I'm already entertained ba kung ga-travel ko. So about, let's say maybe while on taxi or sa bus or maybe
A train.
resting before going to sleep. No, what do you do to entertain yourself?
Usually I travel solo, so I always have a book with me.
So reading, sir. More
Reading, number one, and number two is I used to bring my iPod music, but nowadays I prefer to just be still and just kind of like listen to yourself, enjoy nature, enjoy I people watch. Sometimes I wait for my flight. I will just sit at one of the cafes at the airport and I just watch people go by. And that's better for your growth. You better understand yourself. You better understand the people around you. You strike a conversation. So even if you're traveling by yourself, one of the biggest temptations in traveling by yourself is if you're always on your phone. I think that steals the experience and the time when you always check social media, you always update, but you're always on your phone, maybe playing games or all that stuff. So I suggest when traveling, especially traveling solo, avoid always checking your phone, avoid posting too much on social media. One of the tests I believe for a man is to be able to be entertained even though he's by himself without social media, without gadgets. So I try to do it as much as possible.
Wow, nice. No? I find it very relaxing to do it. You know, sample ka na alone ka, and then you listen to music and look at nature. That's very true.
You just live in the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, here's another question. This is like, saan siya? Kung kan pa, it's a tough question. At least for me, it's tough. Not all travels will end up good and worth it. Why still invest on it?
Actually, this is a very good question. Who asked this question? Abi
Eve
Oh.
Eden.
That's Eve Eden.
Yeah, it's a very good question, Eve. Why invest in it? If you think about it, when you travel, there are certain risks. Like, for example, plane crash or a vehicular accident or being scammed or being mugged. Why do you still need to travel? So before I bump into this quotation that says, a ship is safe, and like a ship is safe on a harbor, but it's not what it's made for. So in order for you to grow, you have to step out of your comfort zone. If you just stay in your comfort zone, it's fine. If that's your happy spot, I'm not telling you to go out there and hike the Appalachian Mountain or Mount Everest. If your happy spot, if it's your home, your sofa, watching TV with potato chips, that's fine with me. But what I'm saying is, if you want growth, then you have to step out there. And there's some risk, but if you think about it, everything in life requires risk. If you want to have an education, you have to risk spending this amount of money and going to Mountain View College, traveling, being away with your family, risking loneliness. But at the end of the day, the benefit far outweighs the risk, so we still do it. So same thing with traveling. There are some risk, but at the same time, if you weigh the benefits compared to the risk, it far outweighs the risk. So I still travel despite of the risk.
Oh, so you see, it's you learn more actually when you travel, because traveling in itself is learning.
Learning experience.
So it's really a learning experience. You learn a lot of things. It's different. If you do not travel, you would just hear it from people, and they. But once you are there, you experience traveling. These are things that kuan man siguro, like we do not necessarily boast nga I will be better than you or whatever, but you see, it's there's so much more to learn when you travel. So learning, stepping out of your comfort zone.
Also a positive mindset, because if you've already set your mind na there will be risk, I think you won't be able to enjoy your journey. I think one is to set a goal in mind. Okay. So, next question.
Yeah, I have one more question here from Ma'am Suzette. Where's that question? Not there. Tips to remember when visiting a new place alone. Oh, so if you want to go to a new place, what tips, though, sir, can you give this our question?
Because you're in a new place, you should maximize the experience. The number one tip for that is avoid being on social media a lot of time, because you have to live in the moment. And if you're always on your phone checking social media, then that will steal your time in absorbing the sights and the sounds of a place. So maximize your time as much as possible. Don't just stay in your hotel and watch cable TV. Go out there and mingle with the locals, eat local food as much as possible. You have to experience what it is like to be in a different place outside of your home country.
Wow, nice. So nice. Thank you, sir, for those tips.
Okay, I have here a question from El Beltran. What are the top 5 interesting places to visit alone?
I think that's in connection with the previous question, right?
So if you want to travel alone, asa man ang 5 places to visit?
I find it there's an advantage in traveling alone for me if I visit historical sites. Because in historical sites, I want to take my time in looking at, for example, Angkor Wat in Cambodia. I want to take my time in just looking at the stone and imagining what happened before, like 1,000 years ago. But if I'm with a friend, they will say, "Oh, let's go there. Let's eat now. Let's go there." So, in traveling alone, traveling solo, my suggestion destinations would be places like Angkor Wat, Taj Mahal, the Great Wall of China, Petra in Jordan. These kinds of places are, I think, the best destinations for solo travel, just because you will learn a lot and you can take your time without the distraction of being with friends.
Okay. So, moto siya, mga places to visit when you are alone.
Angkor Wat is just near. It's not expensive. It's like the Cebu Pacific as a flight from Manila directly.
Okay. You still have a question?
Isa, mga single dihan, no? I think this is your time na gyud to travel, okay? To enjoy, to enjoy the single season. Okay, for our last question here submitted, but again, I think we have other questions later. But I'll read the kanilang sige. How to, that is from our live viewer, from Mr. Kyrie Ben Tabaranza. How do you finance your trips?
First of all, at the start of a month or a year, you should have a plan, a budget for your travel. So for me, like what I've said, travel is very important. So it's right up there as education, for example. So I really set aside a budget for traveling. So when I did my around the world trip, it cost quite a lot of money. But then I thought to myself, how much do you spend in your master's degree? How much do you spend for your doctoral degree? It's a lot, right? But it's worth it because it's education. So for me, I see traveling not just for recreation or pleasure, but for education. So I don't mind spending a lot for traveling because you'd spend a lot for your master's degree anyway. So that's me. So number one is to set aside a budget. But the best way to finance your trip is first with your salary, you have to invest it in assets. Buy money generating assets. And then from that will finance your trip. That's the best way.
So, Sir Regine mentioned that when you finance your trip, it's like thinking about your education, planning for education. Were there some things that you've sacrificed yourself for traveling, sir?
Maybe I didn't sacrifice for this because I'm not really into gadgets. I'd say if you look at my gadgets, I don't have an iPhone 11, for example. I don't have a lot of clothes, but I'm okay with that just because I'm not into them. Or maybe I don't go every week to restaurants eating out a lot. Some people I know, they go to coffee shops every day. They go to Starbucks every day. So I don't do those. Probably that's one of the things that I sacrifice because I love socialization. So yeah, avoid going to Starbucks every day.
Okay. Okay, sige. The last we have here, this comes from my sister, Wintonet Mojica Tabudlong. She's asking, besides traveling alone, how about for those who already have families? What could be your top places, top recommendations to go with your family?
For trips with family, I suggest going to somewhere that is surrounded by nature, like Mountain View College. It's a perfect example for family vacation. So think of vacation surrounded by nature. For me, my dream is for a family vacation to be somewhere like a log cabin in the winter with a fireplace. That's my dream family vacation. Maybe that'll be in Switzerland or in China, northern China, or probably in Canada. So imagine a log cabin in the winter with a fireplace. It's just your family without the internet. So that'll be amazing. But for specific location, specific destination, I suggest Dahilayan Garden Resort. This is not sponsored, by the way. It's a very nice destination for family, local travel destination. Or you can go to Duca Bay in Hingoog, in Misamis Oriental. Duca Bay, there's like it's a resort, and you can stay with your family there. Or you can go to Banawe Rice Terraces. It's historical. It's a nice place to be with family. Outside of the country, in Asia, go to Disneyland. Disneyland is nice for a family vacation as long as you have the budget. And yeah, just be in the midst of nature. Like if you have the budget, definitely go for Switzerland, New Zealand, rolling hills, that kind of place.
Wow. Lahi ito yung preferences no.
Sir, panglista to, sir.
Ibang lista na ko na.
Oo.
Basig lista rataman.
Kolori din, sir. Okay, so, napabay questions atong mga co-hosts?
I don't have any question.
Okay, satisfied. I think maybe wala na questions sa viewer, no? Pero nakoy na gusto ipangutan na kang sir. Since you're a solo traveler, sir, did it cross your mind to change that? Duo na po, no? Dili solo? Or unsa ba kaha ang kuan plano ni sir? Enjoy pa bagid siya karon sa iyang kuan? Or masing natay mga viewers dira nga mga solo travelers but are also planning to go duo, no? So, what's your say on this, sir?
According to King Solomon in Ecclesiastes, what verse is that? Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything. So now while I'm at this stage of my life, I'm enjoying it. But I know there will come a time at some point that this will end and I'll be traveling with my family, with my own family, for example. Because I've experienced traveling with friends before, with my family. So I'm just kind of maximizing this stage of my life in traveling solo. But definitely, you have to try traveling 4 categories of traveling, in my opinion. You have to try these 4 categories of traveling. Traveling with your family, traveling with your friends, traveling with a romantic partner, and then traveling solo, at least once in your life.
You know, wala ta kabalo basin tayo sa mga other countries pa nga i-visit ni sir, dito niya mabanggaan, no? Ang iyang kuan.
Or
Ganun
maybe
ka-
you star.
Ako sir, ako lang yung goal kay sana all maka-travel outside of the country kay wala pa jud ko ka-travel. But then, yeah, again, the first step to following your dreams is to take action. So again, thank you so much, sir, for being with us today. And as a token of our, or as an expression of our appreciation of Sir Regin being with us here with us today, the AY department has prepared a very simple yet a special gift for Sir Regin for his time of being here. Thank you so much, sir. So,
Thank you all for having me here. It's a pleasure. I appreciate it.
and thank you so much to our viewers for participating and for commenting on my post. Okay, watch out for the next episode next Sabbath. So again, thank you so much.
Okay. Once again, thank you.